every single sentence, identify all the moving parts, and convert them using pure, unshakable structural logic. Here's our agenda for today. First, the core grammar flip. Second, mastering simple past tense. Third, tackling present perfect. Fourth, tricky sentence edge cases. And fifth, why voice matters.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the core grammar flip.
Okay, before we even look at specific tenses, we need to establish the absolute baseline mechanics. What is the fundamental engine that drives every single active to passive transformation? Well, there are just two golden rules that apply across the board. First is the subject-object interchange. The subject, the one doing the action, and the object, the thing receiving the action, simply swap places. The old subject usually gets the word by attached to it at the end of the new sentence. Second is the verb transformation. The main action verb always transforms into a combination of a to-be helper verb plus the past participle. We're going to call that past participle V3 today. If you can just remember those two steps, you can literally solve almost any sentence.
Moving right along to section 2, mastering simple past tense. Let's look at our biggest category from the source material. Think of this as your master formula for the simple past tense. On the active side, you have your subject plus V2, which is just your standard simple past verb, plus the object. Now, when we flip it to passive, the object moves to the front. Our to-be helper verb becomes either was or were, depending on if the object is singular or plural, followed by our V3 verb, and ending with by plus the subject. That is the math. So, let's plug some sentences in.
Applying this formula to sentence 4 from part A, we have I wrote a letter. I is the subject, wrote is our V2 verb, and a letter is the object. Following the math exactly, the object, a letter, jumps right to the front. Wrote mathematically becomes was written. We use was because a letter is singular, and written is the V3 form of write. Finally, I becomes by me, so a letter was written by me. It's just perfect execution of the formula. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact same rule in action for sentence 7. She baked a cake. She is our subject. Baked is V2. A cake is our object. Let's flip it. A cake moves to the front. The verb baked transforms into the helper was plus the V3 baked, and she drops to the end as by her. The result? A cake was baked by her. See? It works flawlessly every single time. So let's look at 3 more sentences from part A, paying really close attention to what happens when extra time markers are involved. First up, they built this house in 1990. The subject is they, the verb is built, and the object is this house. We actually leave in 1990 exactly where it is. Subject and object swap, giving us this house was built by them in 1990. Next, they sent the parcel on Monday. The subject they and object the parcel jump positions. The verb sent becomes was sent, resulting in the parcel was sent by them on Monday. Finally, the police caught the thief yesterday. The subject, the police, trades places with the object, the thief, and the verb caught converts to was caught. This gives us the thief was caught by the police yesterday. The core takeaway here, the subject-object flip and verb transformation remain perfectly constant. Those time markers, they just come along for the ride.
Firing through these next 3, notice how beautifully the rule holds up. Part A, sentence 8. I read a book. The subject I and object a book swap to become a book was read by me. Now the spelling stays identical, but the pronunciation actually shifts to the V3 read. Cool, right? Now look at part B, sentence 5. The girl recited the poem beautifully. Our subject is the girl, verb is recited, and object is the poem. Note that the adverb, beautifully, just stays right in place next to the transformed verb, giving us the poem was recited beautifully by the girl. And for part B, sentence 6, the guests enjoyed the party. The subject, the guests, and the object, the party, switch places, and enjoyed becomes was enjoyed, resulting in the party was enjoyed by the guests.
Okay, but what if the subject isn't just one neat little word? Look at part B, sentence 2. The verb is enthralled and the object is us. But that entire giant first half is the subject block. So we flip the whole thing. The object us becomes the new subject we. The verb becomes were enthralled. And that giant block moves to the end. We were enthralled by the marvelous performance delivered by the children. In part B, sentence 7, our subject is the child, verb is impressed, and object is everyone. Everyone comes forward, the verb transforms, giving us everyone was impressed by the child with his polite manners. Finally, part B, sentence 8. The subject block is a girl from Banu. Verb is one, object is the first prize. The whole phrase, a girl from Banu, moves to the end. The verb won becomes was won, resulting in the first prize was won by a girl from Bonu. See? You just identify the complete block, and the math stays easy.
All right, Section 3, Tackling Present Perfect.
Now let's shift gears slightly and look at the present perfect tense, which has its own highly satisfying structural formula. Here's your present perfect master formula. Active is subject plus has or have plus V3 plus object. The absolute secret ingredient for the passive flip here is the word been. You literally just inject it right between your has or have and your V3 verb. So the passive structure becomes object plus has or have plus been plus V3 plus by subject. Let's try it out.
Let's test this on Part A, Sentence 1. I have finished the job. Our subject is I. Our active verb phrase is have finished, and our object is the job. By applying the formula, the job takes the spotlight as our new subject. Have finished seamlessly expands, injecting our secret ingredient, been, and swapping to has because the job is singular. The subject I becomes by me. The result? The job has been finished by me.
Here's Part A, Sentence 3. Now, you might notice a slight typo in the source material where it printed me has bought. Let's go ahead and correct the active sentence to he has bought a new car. Subject is he, verb is has bought, object is a new car. Again, the formula effortlessly converts this. A new car comes forward. Has bought injects been to become has been bought, and he becomes by him, yielding the perfect passive sentence, a new car has been bought by him.
Now the worksheet also tests if we can reverse the math. Part B, Sentence 1 asks us to work in reverse, from passive back to active. The thieves have been arrested by the police. To convert this back, we simply remove our secret ingredient, the word been, and flip the police back into the driver's seat as the active subject. The thieves move back to the object position. The result is the active sentence, the police have arrested the thieves.
And to wrap up this tense, let's look at Part B, Sentence 4. We have shipped your order.
These are the sentences that try to break the rules or introduce an entirely new variable. Let's look at Part B, Sentence 9. The readers like the latest book of the writer. This is our lone simple present tense sentence in the entire exercise. Subject the readers, verb like, and object block the latest book of the writer. Because the active verb like is present tense, our to be helper verb must also be present tense. It becomes is before attaching to the V3 verb liked. The giant object block comes to the front, giving us the latest book of the writer is liked by the readers. Now for a really fun one. Part A, Sentence 9. She gave the beggar a 5-rupee coin. Here is our double object scenario. Because there's a direct object, a 5-rupee coin, and an indirect object, the beggar, you actually have two mathematically correct ways to build the passive sentence. You can bring the coin to the front. A 5-rupee coin was given to the beggar by her. Or you can bring the beggar to the front. The beggar was given a 5-rupee coin by her. Both perfectly follow the structural rules. How cool is that?
Now take a look at Part B, Sentence 3. This one is genuinely tricky. He has been invited to their party. It's clearly a passive sentence, thanks to the has been invited phrasing. But do you notice what's missing? There is no by phrase at the end. So how on earth do we flip it to active if we don't know who did the inviting? Who is our subject?
Well, we solve this missing variable by using context clues to deduce a logical implicit subject. In this case, since he was invited to their party, the most logical actor is they. By inserting they as our active subject, allowing us to successfully complete the formula backwards, we get the active sentence, they have invited him to their party. And finally, Section 5, why voice matters. So, we've successfully converted all 18 sentences by following strict structural rules. We treated it like math, identifying every subject, verb, and object, and we got the right answers. But why should you care about active versus passive voice outside of a worksheet? Well, by mastering these formulas, you aren't just doing grammar math. You are actually gaining the director's power to intentionally choose who or what gets the spotlight in every single sentence you write. Active voice highlights the hero doing the action. Passive voice highlights the result or the object receiving the action. So the question you have to ask yourself every time you sit down to write is, who is the true star of your sentence? The actor or the action?
Part A. Sentences are given in the active voice. Change them into the passive voice. Rules for changing active to passive. Subject-object interchange. The object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence, and the subject becomes the object, usually preceded by. Verb transformation. Use the appropriate form of the verb to be, am, is, are, was, were, been, being, followed by the past participle, V3, of the main verb. I have finished the job. Rule used. Present perfect tense. Subject plus has/have plus V3 plus object yields. Object plus has/have plus been plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. The job has been finished by me. They built this house in 1990. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. This house was built by them in 1990. He has bought a new car. Note. The page prints, me has bought a new car due to a typo. Rule used. Present perfect tense. Subject plus has/have plus V3 plus object yields. Object plus has/have plus been plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. A new car has been bought by him. I wrote a letter. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. A letter was written by me. They sent the parcel on Monday. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. The parcel was sent by them on Monday. The police caught the thief yesterday. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. The thief was caught by the police yesterday. She baked the cake. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. A cake was baked by her. I read a book. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. A book was read by me. She gave the beggar a 5-rupee coin. Rule used. Simple past tense with two objects. Direct and indirect object. Either object can start the passive sentence. Converted passive sentence. A 5-rupee coin was given to the beggar by her. Or the beggar was given a 5-rupee coin by her. Part B. Rewrite the following, changing the active sentences to passive and passive sentences to active. The thieves have been arrested by the police. Voice. Passive voice. Rule used. Present perfect passive. Object plus has/have plus been plus V3 plus by plus subject yields. Subject plus has/have plus V3 plus object. Converted active sentence. The police have arrested the thieves. The marvelous performance delivered by the children enthralled us. Voice, active voice containing a participial phrase. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. We were enthralled by the marvelous performance delivered by the children. He has been invited to their party. Voice. Passive voice. Rule used. Present perfect passive without an explicit agent. Object plus has/have plus been plus V3 yields. Subject plus has/have plus V3 plus object, using a logical subject like they. Converted active sentence. They have invited him to their party. We have shipped your order. Voice. Active voice. Rule used. Present perfect active. Subject plus has/have plus V3 plus object yields. Object plus has/have plus been plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. Your order has been shipped by us. The girl recited the poem beautifully. Voice. Active voice. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus. Subject plus adverb remains in place. Converted passive sentence. The poem was recited beautifully by the girl. The guests enjoyed the party. Voice. Active voice. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. The party was enjoyed by the guests. The child impressed everyone with his polite manners. Voice. Active voice. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus prepositional phrase/agent. Converted passive sentence. Everyone was impressed by the child with his polite manners. A girl from Benue won the first prize. Voice. Active voice. Rule used. Simple past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object yields. Object plus was/were plus V3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. The first prize was won by a girl from Benue. The readers liked the latest book of the writer. Voice. Active voice. Rule used. Simple present tense. Subject plus V, 1 plus object yields. Object plus am/is. R plus V, 3 plus by plus subject. Converted passive sentence. The latest book of the writer is liked by the readers.